Welcome back to the pre-show, girlies. We haven't recorded in a while, and I wanted to update you and the girlies that we're always kind of like hustling for this podcast and trying to grow her as much as we can. And one of the things that I recently did to do that is I just emailed a bunch of people about the pod. Basically, a good resource is IMDb Pro. You can get a free trial subscription. And what that allows you to do is if you're familiar with IMDb, you basically can go on and look and see who was involved in any movie or TV or anything that really you can think of. So you can go on there and get Amy Poehler's publicist, her email, or you know what I mean? You can get the emails and contact information of some pretty people who have connections to the people that make your favorite movies and TV shows, whatever. So I went on there and started sending some emails to people that would maybe resonate with certain topics that we did. So I sent Amy Poehler's team stuff about our Moxie episode, and I sent Jordan Peele's team stuff about our Us episode. But and then so one of the people I reached out to was Shonda Rhimes, her team, and I told them about our Grey's Anatomy episode and our Bridgerton episode. And honestly, I wasn't expecting to get a response back from literally anybody. This was kind of just a colossal waste of time, but I wanted to do it because you never know, you know? And we did get a response back from Shonda's team. It was very polite.
It was.
They were just they're just simply the woman. I think it was her. I don't even know what her title was, but she's connected to Shonda.
You can pull it up.
And she said, she's there's simply not enough minutes in the day.
Retweet.
Yeah. So at least we got
the vice president of brand marketing and communications of Shondaland. So, I mean, that's something.
It's kind of neat. Yeah.
Love that.
I don't know if literally anybody cares about that. And that's not even a flex at all. If anything, it's embarrassing. But I know a couple people who have gotten their foot in the door that way through IMDb Pro. So I just wanted to give it a try. And that was that.
Oh my God. Did I tell you that I dropped my phone in Chipotle Ranch last week?
No. Wait, maybe you did. Did you, where did you get Chipotle Ranch from?
No, I have it from the grocery store.
Oh, okay.
And I had it in my little condiment cup because I have little condiment cups, and I was dipping my sandwich in it. And I had my phone, and my phone just slipped through my hand, and it went straight into Chipotle dressing. So then I'm oh shit. And luckily my phone case kept it out of the charging port, but it made a mess. So then I'm cleaning it out. And then I was video Snapchatting one of my friends an hour after that. And then she responded to my video and she's I can't hear you. And I was oh my God, did it just ruin my microphone? But it didn't. It was just, I don't know, some weird thing with that one Snapchat that the audio didn't work on it. But I was just I swear, if I broke my phone because I dropped it in Chipotle Ranch, I mean, really, what is more fitting?
I was going to say that's a bit on brand.
But just so
right.
We love that. Oh, only other thing, I guess could be pre-show content. Shadow and Bone, the final trailer came off of Netflix, and I am my will to live is dangling on this show's hands. I swear to God, I am so excited for this show. I have such high expectations. The last trailer was absolutely amazing. I think it's going to be really good, and I hope it's going to be really good. And I think it also has a lot of other adaptations riding on its back, because one of my, actually, I would say arguably my favorite series just got picked up by Hulu, which not thrilled about Hulu picking it up, but I mean, it's better than Amazon Prime. and they just bought the rights for the TV show, and the author and the guy who does Outlander is like producing the pilot right now. But I think that like if Shadow and Bone flops, I think there's a very good chance that like this project could get shelved because it's like along the same kind of lines.
I can see that too.
I really hope that Shadow and Bone does really well. Also, because we're going to want a season 2 of Shadow and Bone, and no doubt. And I want ACOTAR. I want to see a TV show of that. So.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited for that to come out. I have not had time to watch the trailer, the new one yet, but I will. And yeah, I'm excited for that.
Very good.
You see that Handmaid's Tale is coming back in April as well this month?
No, when is that coming out?
It just said April.
Well, that's not fucking helpful.
I know. And also it's like that could easily be a lie because this is an example where people just say when stuff is coming out and then it literally doesn't come out then. And they're just like, oh, you know.
I'm so irritated by this documentary series. I'm just annoyed with it.
Yeah, it's, you know, okay, well, we can get into it, but yeah, I just don't understand that, like how people can be like, this is when it's coming out. I guess I did that with Kyra's film, but that is different.
It was beyond your like means, you know?
Yeah, it's just like big production companies. It's like, is somebody getting fired over that, you know?
Exactly.
Should we jump in?
Yeah, let's dive. Oh my God, I don't even have GarageBand up. I'm trash.
Neither
I feel like
do
it's been so long. Like I'm just forgetful. How do we operate? Recording in 3, 2, 1.
Buckle up.
Because it's going to be a long ride.
It's going to be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're going to tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chats.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm Michae.
And I'm Katie. With the hair. Sorry.
Thank you. I didn't know we needed to add like tail ends. And this week we are coming to you with something that we have never done on the podcast before, which is covering a documentary. Correct me if I'm wrong, Katie, but I'm pretty sure that this is the first documentary that we've ever covered.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably. I'm just very preoccupied with my due.
Say, I don't know.
I don't think that's the answer, but anyways, sorry. I don't think so. I don't think we've ever done a documentary.
So we are doing Demi Lovato's documentary. We are only going to be covering the first 3 episodes because Demi Lovato bamboozled us. She had said, like, my documentary drops on March 30th or whatever day it was supposed to be. It was like, my documentary is coming out. My 4-part documentary is coming out on this day. So Katie and I are like, sweet. So the other week on Tuesday, I go on YouTube, I'm done after work, I'm ready to like relax, just zone out, watch this documentary. Only 2 episodes are out. So I'm like, that's odd. So I text Katie and she's like, I only see 2 as well. And then we see that the 3rd one was scheduled to come out this week. So we're like, okay, we'll do that one, thinking that like the 3rd and 4th would both drop this week. Nope, turns out the 4th one isn't going to be out until like April 5th. And the last episode comes out on April 7th of her documentary. But we already messed up our filming schedule.
Sorry about that, y'all. We did take a week-long hiatus break because we were going to have a guest on the pod, but then that fell through and we just didn't really feel like putting out a makeshift episode that was probably not going to be that great, and we just decided to save Promising Young Women after my birthday episode. To be fully transparent, I didn't want to edit because I didn't have time. Yeah,
because we drank from 11 o'clock until like 12:30 at night. So
yeah.
So anyways, we didn't want to push off our recording schedule again. So, you know, we're covering the first 3 episodes. If there are any lingering thoughts of the 4th and final episode that comes out, Katie and I will just add those in on the front end of next week's episode. So you can tune back in for that, and we'll do like a brief recap of it there.
I do just want to say that I didn't completely drop the ball in the editing realm. I am supplementing you all for Miss Demi deciding to only release 3 parts of the documentary, and also us taking a little break last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. There's a birthday video vlog from my birthday party already up by the time you guys are listening to this. So go check it out. We'll link it. The link to our YouTube channel is in the description below. And yeah, it's just a very short vlog because we were just enjoying our time together with the girlies in a COVID-safe party.
All right, before we jump in, it's time for a check-in. I feel like Katie and I haven't even checked in a while. Like, it's been a hot second. So, Katie, how's it going? Tell me about yourself.
I'm fine in this current moment. I've obviously, people are probably sick of hearing me just be like, everything is awful. But it is. Just really am not doing great, but it's fine. I haven't had therapy in a while, and I'm very much looking forward to my next appointment because we have some shit to talk about, bitch. I don't really know what to say. It's hard to just like pinpoint what's wrong, but because also my life is great. Like I have a great apartment. I'm very blessed. Great friends, family. Mental health is just hard. I just had a bit of a depressive episode. And I think I'm out on the other side. I just hate my job. Is the like overall the overarching theme of this thesis paper. It's all the same, y'all. That's just like a very broad, vague, really not a good answer about where I'm at. How are you?
I love that for us. Yeah, the girlies are not thriving this week. I feel like it's kind of the same. Katie and I are either both like doing really well or we're both kind of like meh. Yeah. And yeah, there's no really reason for me to have been like in a funk the past like week and a half, but I just am. And it's really not fun. Yeah, it's not like fun waking up every morning and just like dreading every second of being awake. Like that's not fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like I have some things like this weekend, my brother and his fiance and my nephew are coming over and we're celebrating my nephew's first birthday a few weeks early. And so I'm just like trying to look forward to that. Like that'll be exciting. I love my apartment. Like I absolutely love my place. And I went shopping last weekend. And I got some stuff for on the walls. So it just feels more like a home now that I have some stuff up. Do we have any lingering items?
Literally no. I'm sorry my check-in was dumb, but I just don't want to like be negative and bring people down. But I also don't want to lie and say that I'm good because and I know like people have said that they appreciate our transparency on here. I don't want to just be a negative vibe. So we are covering a bit of a darker topic today. Demi's documentary was definitely not sunshine, rainbows, positive vibes. It was, I mean, understandably so, about her overdose and what all happened with that, and how she is recovering. And we don't have YouTube Premium or anything, so we're literally just talking about the stuff that literally anybody can go watch. I'll just put a trigger warning right here. Demi in her documentary talks obviously about substance abuse, eating disorder, and sexual assaults, and really just like overall trauma. So sorry that the past couple episodes have been a bit heavy. We will maybe take into consideration that we should lighten things up going forward. But yeah, I did appreciate that she let it all out there in these 3. I felt like I learned more about her and got a better idea of what actually went down with her overdose. And I feel like I have a more insightful view of the whole situation. Because when you're just looking at something from a press point of view, the song Anyone, the fact that she wrote that before her overdose, I was under the impression that she wrote that in rehab. Yeah. So even this, just that type of thing, it really does remind people, at least it reminded me, like, we have no fucking idea what's going on. The press is such an unreliable source for, like, about all of Hollywood and all of these people. Like, so that's what I love about these documentaries. You know, Billy's documentary that recently came out, I loved. Ariana's documentary, Demi's documentary from a couple years ago. I just really appreciate these. The artist is in control of their own narrative, really, for like, this is like the only time the artist is in control of their own narrative, and even then the production company might skew it a little bit, but like, in my mind, this is the most authentic we're gonna get. I live for these documentaries. I loved Lady Gaga's. I loved Amy Winehouse.
So before we jump in, we're going to kind of break these down chronologically, like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and then we'll kind of get into like general stuff for everyone. But first, Katie, I just wanted to ask you, do you remember her overdose and like seeing that announcement? Because I remember that like clear as day when I saw that.
I do remember that, and I remember thinking that like she was gonna die. Like we were gonna get a notification that she had passed, you know, and like waiting for that, because it was a heroin overdose. Like that was pretty explicit right off the bat. Artists have overdosed on heroin. Like we've talked about Cory Monteith on this podcast before, and like it just kind of brought me back to that. And Mac Miller, I know he didn't overdose on heroin, but I don't know, it just kind of felt like the same heartbreaking story that we've all heard before, and I was literally bracing for her to pass away. So
it was something that in that moment, like you had Cory Monteith, that was like a childhood idol of yours who passed when we were teenagers. She, for me, was going to be like the first childhood like idol that I would have seen die. Because Paul Walker, I remember his death very clearly, but he was not like a childhood, like from the age of 10, you know, and up. Right. It was like much later in my adult life when I was a really big fan of Paul Walker that I remember like Demi Lovato was going to be kind of like our generation's first like pop star. And I was like, again, just like you said, convinced that she was going to die, and just kind of like waiting to see that. And I was just thinking like, that's going to be like our generation's first like big pop star. Cause we haven't really had anyone, I mean, Mac Miller, but I'm thinking like, you know, like Disney Channel, like pop stars that, and even Mac Miller was in recent years, but I don't know. That was just wild. That all came out, and I really liked getting this in-depth look at like the behind the scenes of it. I think there's so much more to like this story even. I just feel like they could have made this so much longer than they did, but
oh yeah, totally. I kind of do wish that it wasn't broken into parts, because I feel like I get taken out of the moment and then have to come back.
I really don't like the multi-episode formats. I also don't like that they're all around 20 minutes. I feel like that's an odd choice. That's like a sitcom time span, you know? Would rather it all be in one, and even though it is dark, I'd rather have 2 hours of that than like be in it for 20 minutes and then try to like go about the rest of my night, and then like last night or the other night when that one came out, then like watch that for 20 minutes and then try to like be in a good mood when I'm already in a bad mood. Like I would have rather had that condensed than like spread out over time to keep putting me like just farther into my feels.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember she came out with the song Sober, like right before that happened too. I remember just being kind of mad, like she literally told the world that she's not sober anymore. This happens, and I was like, why was nobody
doing anything about it?
Like why? And I think so often, again, just the same old story of like people making money up. When people's careers and livelihoods are dependent on one person, that can be a very toxic situation. And her sobriety may not have been a priority. But then also this documentary does show that it wasn't a priority for her either. And I've had that thought about Demi Lovato before too, you know, in her first documentary that came out a couple years ago, when she said she's been sober since she was 19, I was like, that would be so fucking hard. Like, you're not even the legal drinking age yet and you are sober 2 years before you're 21. Like, I guess her decision to dip her toe back into it, I can't say that I wouldn't do the exact same thing. When you're this huge pop artist, super successful, you never get to celebrate. Like, unfortunately, the stigma revolving around addiction and substance abuse problems, you don't necessarily want to be carrying that around. And I think she talks so much in this documentary about rewriting the story. It seemed like she really wanted to do that, which again, I understand. So it did I really appreciate the new perspective that the documentary gave me about a lot of different things.
So, episode 1 is the introduction to it, obviously, and so just kind of a brief overview of what it included, just to like refresh anyone's memory, because I know for me, like these all started to blur together because they're all kind of the same, but not really. So, episode 1, she was talking about the abandoned documentary that she was shooting on tour and how she was very good at hiding her addiction on that tour and even filming that documentary. And then her decision to start drinking again, and then when she tried heroin for the first time, as well as her issues that she has with her father, who is passed. And then it focused a little bit on her old team. And like there have been some things out floating around for a while since she split with her old management about how she was treated or how their relationship kind of worked within that. And that is, I want like an entire documentary on that. Just like her old management team. Because in the first documentary, I'm like, she has like this great group of people around her. They've got her the help that she needs. And it sounds like they all try to keep her on track. They stuck with her all this time. So then when she split from them, I remember seeing that news and I was like, what the fuck? And then in this, when you're hearing some of the behind the scenes stuff, I'm like, interesting. Because that's not kind of what we saw in that first documentary. So, not saying that then, like, this is, I'm just saying, like, that was interesting to hear some of that come to light. Because,
things are definitely not always as they seem.
I just want to start off, I loved the opening of this documentary and how it showed her as being on like this high. She's on tour, she's got like these great outfits, she's looking amazing. Like you would think from the outside, it looked like everything was great. And then they ended the opening with that phone call with her mom of saying like, it's only going to get better from here. And then they time stamped at the bottom that it was like a month before the overdose or a week or some short span of time later that then she overdosed. And I just thought that was a really great opening for this.
I feel like there were a couple timestamps where it was like showing how certain things, how close in proximity things were happening to her overdose. And again, another thing that I appreciate about this documentary is the way that it portrays how hard addiction is to deal with as somebody who is an addict, but also somebody who is a family member or close to an addict. And the people talking about how good she was at pretending to be okay. And there was that clip of, I forget who the other celebrity was, but they were like, I just be careful. Like, I feel worried about you. And I was like
chills.
Yeah, and I think that one was timestamped like a couple days before. And you can just tell, like, in Demi's eyes, she's like, like, I'm fine. I always am, and I think it's just, hindsight looking at that, it's like, oh my God, she's clearly not planning on being careful at all. My heart goes out really to the people who are closest to her. She's a grown woman. She needs to have autonomy over her life. But then when she's like, I want to start drinking again, and then that clip of her saying, I want to get fucked up and everything, it's like, I don't know. That would be so hard to deal with because you can't, it's just so hard to tell somebody like, hey, I'm worried about you, because again, with the stigma of addiction and everything.
You can't control like a 27-year-old. She's not a child. She's not under anyone's care anymore. And if she wants to start drinking alcohol, who can stop? Like literally no one can stop her. So it's hard from the people outside, like, because then you can look around at like family members, friends, and when they see her starting to drink, like I guarantee none of them were standing by and just being like, she really earned this. Like, this is going to work out well. I'm sure they were all like holding their breath, being like, when is this going to take a turn? So then I think it kind of seemed like one of the issues with her old management was that they were like too hands-on and like too controlling of her environment, that like almost made her rebel. But then also you can't be like so hands-off where the person then thinks that like, well, no one gives a fuck about anything that I'm doing, so I'm going to do this all anyways. And I don't know. I feel like it's just such a hard balance for her to deal with for herself, and then for people around her to want to help but also know that they're like, we can't push her too hard, because if she doesn't want to be sober, we can't make her.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. And her mom says you have to be the one to choose to be sober. And they were kind of alluding to that former management and how they were just very, and Demi talks about how she was just miserable, because it was always like, where is she? What's she doing? And it kind of triggered her eating disorder a little bit, because they were like, what food is she eating? What hands-on? And that's got to be awful, so much pressure, and you almost want to have a drink at the end of the day when that's the environment that you're living in. People who have addiction and struggle with substance abuse, like, it has to be the decision of the person, which is like the hardest part. You never are like cured of addiction, like you are dealing with it for the rest of your life, which kind of, I guess, goes back to her deciding to dip her toe into drinking again. Like, that should have never happened, because she was a known addict and she was known to have substance abuse issues. And this is also getting ahead, but she said, like, I wish my overdose was the last time I used heroin, but it's not. Like, she is going to be dealing with this for the rest of her life, and that's what's so scary and so hard. Like, we could still lose her at some point, Anybody who's an addict, like, even somebody who's, like, reformed and goes out and gives talks, like TED Talks or whatever, like, anybody who is an addict can relapse at any time.
And especially for someone like her who was so young and in the spotlight, not only from a young age, but then also like known having substance abuse issues from a young age. Like, if she got sober at 19, clearly this was out and going on. And I mean, like, I remember when stuff would come out when we were younger and she was much younger and that coming out and being well known. And I think it was her oldest sister that talked about how, like, it was great for Demi to be like a good role model for other young girls, but then also for other like addicts to look up and be like, look, if this star, can do it, so can I. And like, that's great that she was that for like people with mental health issues and sobriety and eating disorders. But when you like become that poster child of that puts even more pressure and more spotlight onto you into staying sober. And so much like focus on her struggle with that too, which is like, who wants to constantly relive their struggles? Like, no one wants to have to constantly recount that or be the image that everyone looks up to, because she was obviously still struggling. It's just like kind of sickening how she was put into that view so young and like idolized for that in a way. Like, as you said, she was 2 years before the legal drinking age even, and like a literal teenager that was just like immediately forced onto her. I mean, like, yes, you're in the spotlight, so it's great that obviously she can shine light on those issues, but then when they become so embedded in her image and what like the public is trying to like pull out from her, obviously that's not going to end well. Like, anyone with a brain and eyeballs can see that.
And again, just like the industry too is not the ideal industry for an addict to be in. Scooter Braun situation, we can get into it when that comes up. But like, again, you have to work, you have to provide for your team and do the things that you signed up for, like you're signing contracts and everything. And then also in Demi's case, she voices that music is what she needs to feel better and to heal. Like, it's just all this like never ending cycle of the music at the end of the day is like the art and she's good at music. Her voice is incredible. There's no denying that Demi Lovato is incredibly talented vocally. That is what she needs to do to kind of like heal and feel better. And I don't know, but then also the more successful she gets, the more involved in this industry that she gets. She's a mega celebrity. She will always have connections to drug dealers. If she wants drugs, if she wants heroin, she will get it in 2 hours max. Like, so I guess that's just what I'm trying to say is like, there will never be a short supply for her. And also, she will always be in a potentially toxic environment where her mental health is not a priority and her sobriety is not a priority.
Like, it's not like the thing that heals her is a hobby or a job that she can do without a spotlight. Like, she could sing and write, like, she could become a ghostwriter and do that. But I mean, like, her real talent, I mean, she's an incredible songwriter, but her voice, next level, like unmatched. And she can't sing without a spotlight. It's not even like she could kind of take a step away.
Yeah, at this point, she's in it. Yeah, she can. Yeah. And it's hard too because she does have such a strong message, and it is so refreshing to see somebody talk in such an open and transparent way, and how she allowed the people closest to her to just really say how they were feeling. You know, like I said before, she had complete control over her narrative, and she could have spun it any which way, but again, it doesn't appear that way to me. You know, people kind of were like, yeah, she fucked up. Like, and Demi herself too is not like, I'm a changed woman and I found God. And, you know, she's like, I've relapsed since my near-death experience of overdosing with heroin again. Unbelievable how transparent she is, and I appreciate the way in which she's talking about these things and the way that she felt during all of it, the way she felt about being sexually assaulted and how she internalized that, and just the way she put into words the way that she was feeling, I felt was so eloquent. And really, I've never heard somebody talk about their experience with sexual assault the way that she did, where she was trying to like rewrite the story. I don't know, I feel like I really appreciated the authenticity and how it wasn't like, I'm changed and this is all good now and resolved. It really just felt like she just wanted to talk about
and
it. Yeah.
This is where I'm at now. And I wish I could say that maybe it was different, but it's not. All right, so episode 2 was mostly focusing on her actual overdose and like the events of that day and the day or the few days leading up to it, kind of that night, and then some of the medical repercussions that have since happened, which was complete news to me. I did not realize that she lost some of her vision and that like she can't drive herself, which again, I was just thinking, I'm like, that's taking another piece of like her independence away now, that then even more so like you can't continue to try to control her behavior when that's like a huge sense of freedom for someone to just be able to drive themselves.
It's like it's a miracle that she's alive. Yeah. It is really, hearing it, you know, I'm no expert. I don't really know the first thing about science or medicine or anything, but just hearing it all talked out the way that they did in the documentary, they had some of the team who worked on Demi when she was in the hospital there. Like, she is so lucky to be alive. And it makes me think that there's like definitely a reason that she prevailed and made it through. Like how she was saying at the end of the second episode, like she survived the 27 club. Like it's just very serendipitous. It's not like she overdosed and was 5 minutes away from dying and now she's completely back to normal. Like she will never be the same. And the fact that she's chosen and her disorder has driven her to go back to the substance that nearly killed her. If that doesn't really open your eyes to like the thralls in which substance abuse really affects somebody, and it's a sickness. Like, can you imagine like going back to the thing that nearly killed you? It's an illness, it's a sickness. And I can't say enough good things about this because it really, I think, is beneficial to people who struggle with this stuff and who know people who struggle with this stuff or even don't, like making small steps towards dismantling the stigma about it. And also just the stupid way that the press, I guess not the stupid way, but just how ignorant I think we all were just going off of what the press was saying about the situation. It seemed very black and white, you know, like she overdosed, she almost died, and now she's good, she's back, she's doing the Grammys, she's like recovered. Like, that's just not it.
Okay, well, that was a dark note to end it on, and now it seems weird. But the little bit with the doctor at the end was really cute.
I
When
agree.
she was like, "Did you know who I was?" And he was like, "No, I didn't look you up until like after a week," because he's like, "I didn't want anything to affect my medical advice or whatever." The producer asked or said like she has some bops, and he was like, "Yes, she does." Like it was just cute.
know.
And I'm just like, could you imagine being a doctor in LA? The clientele.
That's what I was thinking. That's what
You
I
would
was
have
thinking.
to like stay offline. But I mean,
He seems
probably
like
if
the
you're,
perfect person for that job, though.
yeah, I was gonna say probably if you're at that level of like doctor prestige, you probably are not that up to date with pop culture and like following that along. I'm sure you have a lot more important things to be doing than like sitting online and following along with celebrity news. But I just thought that was really a cute little moment.
It was
the only
cute.
like kind of lighthearted moment that we really had in this whole episode.
I wonder how many like famous people he's operated on and like not even known. But I think that's really admirable, you know, and obviously it does make sense. Like he probably went to a really good medical school and was like studying a lot and is obviously a very good doctor. Like he saved Demi's life when it was almost impossible. So it's not hard to believe that he has no idea who this bitch is,
No.
which is like, it's fine and it's probably a good thing, you know.
He does not look like
Love
he
him.
watched Camp Rock.
No.
Or listens to like pop hits
No.
on the radio. Maybe if he has a
Yeah.
child. Ouch.
He's my standout star.
The whole documentary. The doctor. Honestly, though, if anyone deserves the standout star award, it's the doctor. Because I literally can't
Or-
comprehend how you do that. How
I
you
really
save someone's
like,
life like that.
I actually really like a lot of them, but I really like her sober companion with the colorful hair. I think her hair is
Love her
lit.
hair. Oh my god. I couldn't every time she was on screen, I couldn't stop looking at her hair. I'm like, it's just so pretty.
Her head of security.
He seems like such a gem.
I know. Really sweet. He looks exactly like this dude that I used to work with at a restaurant. That man had a gambling problem, which is kind of like not serendipitous,
Random.
but like weird parallels. Her former assistant.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about her former assistant here, because that was kind of like the big takeaway for me in this episode was fuck whoever made this assistant feel that she could not dial 911 when she found her responsive and that she had to question her job. That she's like,
Yeah.
if I call 911, I could get fired. Fuck whoever created that toxic environment where this woman's first reaction was, I don't know. But then go her for doing it anyways. And then when they were like, oh, make sure you don't turn sirens on, and she says that, and the lady's like, yeah, no, we can't do that. She didn't push it. She was like, yeah, just fucking get the ambulance here, please.
Gold star. I bet she's so traumatized. I feel for
I can't
her.
imagine.
Dude, I also really liked the way that the documentary was edited with the sketches.
I loved that.
I really appreciated that it wasn't just like them talking. It made it a lot more immersive.
Especially when she was like, I got there, I went upstairs, I knocked, I went down, I went around, then I went back upstairs, then I like left, I went back upstairs. You know, if it would have just been talking, that would have been very static to see, to like hear and not be able to visualize. But the little sketches were fun. Just the recounting of that assistant in that moment, I can't even imagine how scary that would be for anyone in general, but then let alone when you do have like this mega famous person, someone who is like responsible, again, going back to Demi's responsibilities that are put on her for giving all of these people jobs. But when you're looking around too, you're like, everyone has a job because of this person. We need to save her, not because of like job security, but just because she's a person and you care about her. I can't even imagine how scary that must have been. And then when they said that like her whole body was blue, like that's just horrifying to think about. And then of course we ended the episode with Demi talking about like that night kind of leading up and how she had called over her drug dealer, who hasn't named, but then reveals that he sexually assaulted her that night. And then to hear her like recount that, and then she kind of gets into that more in the third episode too. But just to hear that, because again, that was like another big bombshell. Like I don't think that was out before this documentary. Trauma after trauma stacked on into one night for her. piling on top of like 27 other years full of shit. And like people wonder how she like would go back to heroin or like struggle so much with addiction. It's just like not only does she have that, then she has eating disorders, she has like issues from her childhood, she's been sexually assaulted, as she revealed in the third episode. She lost her virginity to a rape. It's like, how many bad things does Demi Lovato have to go through? It's horrible. And the third episode especially was just like kind of nonstop sadness. I mean, they both were really sad, but the third episode especially, talking about the fallout and her sexual trauma, is just...
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that he like left her there is awful. To die, yeah, is awful. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about that because that's just fucking horrible. Except going back to that fact of like, it wasn't just, she was out partying, she overdosed, now she's better. Like, again, there's so much more to the story. Also, the friend whose birthday it was and how Demi was trying to get people to stay, that's something that I really resonated with. I never, ever, ever want a night out to end. Ever. That's the worst part of every night out for me. But her friend being like, we should have stayed. Like, should we have stayed? Yeah. Like, that just felt weird.
I know. That again was another like chills moment.
It's just a lot.
Because it's like, they knew without knowing. Like so many people had a feeling that night. And I can't imagine how often, like, afterwards they probably were like, I can't imagine the blame that you would feel, even though they are 100% not responsible whatsoever. But I can't imagine just like internally how much I would kick myself, like if I was that friend, of just being like, I should have turned around, I should have done this, should have done that. Yeah, so the third episode gave a spotlight to her friend whose birthday party it was the night before, who got a lot of online hate after the overdose, and then just kind of more talk with her friends, definitely diving into more of her sexual trauma in her life, and then kind of her like comeback moments a bit, the Grammys, the national anthem at the Super Bowl, that kind of stuff at the end of the episode. The friend, like, I want to kick it off with the friend. How people, death threats are literally never okay. Like, I don't care who you are or how much power you think you have because you're on a keyboard, but that is just, there's just really no excuse. That's absolutely unacceptable behavior, and people on the internet are just so fucking mean. And I found it so ironic when they were pulling up like the pictures of the comments that most of the people who were sending it were like Demi fan accounts. And one of them, I don't think it was a Demi fan account, but it was a Treat People with Kindness. That was their handle. And then they're saying like, kill yourself. That's fucking ironic. How do you not see that? Yeah, just the fan base. It's like, how do you think that that is helping your idol in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I don't really understand how the narrative was formed that she was the drug dealer. And then she then got fired from all of her teaching jobs because she was like, nobody wants a heroin dealer teacher. That's just awful. How did the narrative get to that point? Because for me, this is where I'm removed from that perception. I did not feel the need to be like, who is responsible for this? I've never left a hate comment in my life, and I just like can't relate to that. And I'm not trying to be like all high and mighty or anything, but that's just like a lot of energy that I'm not willing to expel on literally anybody.
You're just not like a mean person.
Well, like, we will talk all the shit on this podcast, though.
Oh, yeah. Okay, fair.
I will speak it out, but I will not type it out.
I agree. I have never sent a hate comment, but have we talked about Catherine Cimarelli on this podcast before?
Michaela?
I was having a bit of a moment. Last night, I think I was having a bit...
You were right about that, though.
Thank you.
The beret.
It's like we've talked about, of people with like anxiety and people with depression, that when you are either like having a lot of anxiety and you just like live in a state of anxiety and then something happens that eases it, you are like on a high. It's like what I would think like a drug high would be. You feel fucking great.
Yeah.
And last night I had kind of come out of my depressive episode a bit. I was like feeling kind of good. And again, I felt great. Same case did not happen this morning. But in the moment, I was having a fun time and I was catching up on our girls, the Cimarelli sisters on YouTube.
Yes.
And I just had to send Katie some snaps. But again, that will never reach the person. Like, I would never comment directly under someone's shit. And also, we would never send a death threat in the first place. Anyways.
Yeah, that's just a lot. Man.
That's a lot of negative energy that the world does not need. So if you feel the need to leave a hate comment, you need to do some serious reevaluation. And honestly, that's on you. That's not on me.
Yeah, that's tragic for you. I feel so bad for her friend though. And I'm, again, just go Demi for giving her that space to be like, bitches, hop the fuck off. Like,
honestly,
that's so rude. Because this third episode did talk a little bit about her comeback or whatever, or like her reemergence and going to rehab and being like, I don't want to be here. And then she left. I don't know. And she's like, I'm paying for this. I don't know. That was back when she was younger though.
No, that was just recently.
Was it? Okay. Well,
yeah.
Her rehab and all of this new journey and her firing her team. And I just want to know how you feel about the Scooter Braun situation.
I'm glad you're bringing it up because I wanted to talk about it. Ooh, okay, let's dive in. Personally, before Demi Lovato signed with him, okay, actually, I'm going to be going back to like Taylor Swift. I don't remember really ever hearing the name Scooter Braun or like really giving that much shit. I know he manages Justin Bieber, but I've never really been like a Justin Bieber fan, so I didn't really follow like along with that. But my only like experience with Scooter Braun was the whole Taylor Swift Masters situation. And I was like, fuck this dude. I cannot support this man for like how shady he was with that whole thing and how absolutely dirty Taylor Swift has been done by him.
Right.
However, if he helps Demi, like great for her. Like I hope that he really does give a shit about her and that he does really help her out a lot and that it ends up being a good fit for her. But I only say that because of her. I do not give a shit about this man. Also because it's like literally, who am I to Scooter Braun? Like it really I have no skin in this game. But I just think he seems like a sketchy person, and I would really hope it turns out well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the position where I have to give him the benefit of the doubt because I want this to work out for Demi. And there has to be a reason why she went to him. Mm-hmm. Although, is she a reliable source, I guess? Like, I don't think it's fair to say that, like, we can trust Demi with like her decision making because she doesn't have a track record. Right. But I also feel like I have to believe that she chose Scooter Braun for a reason. Mm-hmm. And it is smart that she is going with a management team that isn't being like, you have to make music. Where's the next album? Human beings, and understanding of the fact that she literally just almost died from a drug overdose and she needs music to heal, but also cannot be under any pressure because again, like if you're a human being with like a soul and an understanding of how humans operate, like probably if any other person in the world like had a near-death experience heroin overdose, they wouldn't be like, get back to work. No, come back to the accounting firm, you know, like I'm not one to say that Scooter Braun is the man for the job. Honestly, my public perception of Scooter Braun is I would assume he is the exact opposite man for the job. I mean, from what he said in the documentary and how he was like, at first we were like, she's a liability. We have to figure out how to say no. And then how what she said really resonated with them. All I can say is I hope for the best, but I'm preparing for the worst because the track record
of it is not great.
The track record for Scooter Braun and just the music industry in general, like, is not good. And then Demi's track record of saying the right things and making wrong decisions for herself. The fact that she persuaded them with whatever speech she gave to them to get them to sign her and to take her on, it worries me. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm hopeful that she's gonna be okay. Obviously, I want her to be okay.
I genuinely hope that it turns out good.
Me
And I mean,
too.
obviously, like Justin Bieber's been with him for years. I hope it goes well, but
And at the end of the day, I'd kill for more Demi music. Like, I can never get enough of her music. Like, that's something that they mentioned in the documentary too. Like, with all of this shit that she's been through, like you said, it's hard to or it's easy to forget that she is like one of the most talented people to come out of Disney, period. One of the most talented vocalists of our generation, period.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm trying to think of someone who I would even think would be comparable. Because Miley Cyrus is extremely talented and, like, as a vocalist, again, extremely talented. But I really don't think there's anyone that's, like, comparable to Demi Lovato's range.
Yeah, and like the soul from the get-go, I think Miley has really evolved as a vocalist and grown as a vocal artist, and she was good at the beginning too, but like Demi from out the gate was a powerhouse little girl with a big voice. She's
She
really,
really
really good. And so obviously I want it to work out first and foremost because I want her to live and I want her to be okay and I want her to be happy, but also I'm a fan. I want more music from her.
I know. It's that double-edged sword. And her music, it's just, it really is good. Is it called Tell Me You Love Me? Is that the album, what it's called too, that song is off of? What is it? The one with the hands
Sorry
in her
Not
hair?
Sorry. No, that was the first single.
Because whatever album that is in so many of my playlists for some of my like writing inspo. Because that album is just, oh, it is Tell Me You Love Me.
Okay, yeah. You know what I love about
that
that
album
song?
is by far my favorite.
You know what I love about that song, Tell Me You Love Me, is that it sounds kind of like a power, like a female empowerment song, kind of like What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger, like that kind of vibe. Honestly, it kind of is comparable to Sorry Not Sorry off the same album. But it's so toxic. Or not toxic, but it's like very unhealthy. Like,
it is.
You ain't nobody till you got somebody. Like, that is not a healthy line at all. But it sounds like a boom, boom. I really love that. And that song goes hard. So does Sorry Not Sorry. That whole album.
I'm saying that album is next level. And also the Tell Me You Love Me music video with Jackson Avery from Grey's Anatomy. It's like 6 minutes long. It's like a whole little skit. Oh my God. My next note is a fucking turn back into being sad. She talked about, when she was talking about her experiences as a child, and when she brought up about Rihanna, how she's like, I've never spoken out about this before. And she's like, honestly, it was because of Rihanna. And that, again, I'm constantly shocked, or I'm like not shocked. I shouldn't be at this point because it's like, yeah, clear, like obviously our society is like this. But we can't be surprised that women don't come forward when men like Chris Brown have careers and men like Brett Kavanaugh can hold a high position in office and our fucking president can rape women. Like, we can't be shocked then that women don't come forward, because what have they gotten out of that? They've been harassed. They've had to publicly relive their trauma. They've been ostracized, and they put all of this fucking effort into the world for them to just be like, it's kind of like, thanks for sharing. It's like Matt James being like, thank you for sharing that. And then just like moving on and allowing these men to still exist and work and function in everyday life without any consequences.
Well, that's like the best case scenario too. Because like the best case scenario is like, we believe you, but like nothing's gonna happen. Like that's literally the best case scenario. And that maybe the guy goes to jail for a couple months, Brock Turner. So often it's like you're just jumping on the Me Too movement. Like everybody's doing it. It's the hip thing to do. Like, why is that the impulse response?
Instead of being like, how many women have a story? Wow. Instead of being shocked at the fact that all of these women have stories.
It's like, oh, well, they all have stories. Of course they all have stories. It's like, no, why are we not like, oh shit, they all have stories. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Fuck that.
Exactly. And she was like, he didn't get pulled out of the movie that he was in, and who knows, like, I mean, he could still very well be working, and she never named him, but he could still be working publicly, or else he could have fallen off the radar. Who knows? But
This is the
what
guy
the
who
fuck?
took her virginity that we're talking
Yes.
about for anybody who doesn't know.
And then other just ironic fucking clip coming back to bite Chris Harrison in the ass.
Oh.
Him interviewing her. And then
I
this
was like,
man.
fuck you, bitch. He looked like ass too. He just
Chris-
looked bad.
Well, he's just. We're not going to resort to petty insults, but Chris Harrison, fuck your face. Anyways, so Chris Harrison is interviewing Demi Lovato when she is 16, and when she says, like, believe it or not, like, I've been through stuff. And his response, and now knowing what we know, it's like Demi Lovato, even granted she shouldn't have said it anyways, but especially now knowing what we know, it's like that she has been through shit, Chris Harrison.
Yeah.
And he goes, and I quote, "How much heartbreak can you have had at 16? You don't know her life, as we've talked about. You also know that she is a young girl in this industry. How can you not think that she has been through things? Like, you can't, Chris Harrison, you can't be so naive and think that this 16-year-old girl is not being chewed up and spit out at the moment. And can we just not minimize trauma for children purely for the reason because they're young?
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to experience 50 years worth of life to have trauma."
Yeah.
That whole clip.
And
just got me
also,
fired
like,
up.
why can't you just validate the fact that she wrote a banging ass song at 16? Like, why is your immediate focus being like, how did you do, like, you don't really know. It's like, bitch, clearly she does. She wrote an amazing fucking song. You're not proving a point. Like, you're not doing anything. Why not? Like, why is it so hard to acknowledge the achievements of women? Why does it have to literally be a backhanded fucking compliment? What is that? That makes, like, that had me heated too. I was like, get out, bitch. Get out. That's the icing on the fucking cake with that whole,
I know.
that man. Throw the whole man away.
It would have been bad no matter what interviewer it was, but the fact that it was Chris Harrison, it was like, oh my god.
I was like, why is he even here? But also, ew. And he was so close to her. I just think my whole perception of him is just tainted. And like, oh, that was awful.
As Katie said, just throw the whole man out. So, and then my last thing, kind of my last like note for kind of this episode specifically was I really liked her sister's honesty. And I'm not saying that the two friends were being dishonest when they said that they never once for a moment considered giving up on her. I don't doubt that at all. But I really love that when they were asked, her sister was straight up like, yeah, because look at all of this shit. And like, I can't even imagine for her family what it's like to have watched her just like downward spiral for like years and years and years and just constantly see all of the pressure and not really be able to do anything whatsoever to help her. I really appreciated her sister's honesty because she could have very easily just been like, no, Demi's my sister, and like left it at that, but she was like, yeah, I have, and what about it?
Well, I would have honestly been shocked if she did say no, because earlier on in the documentary parts, they talk about how back earlier in Demi's journey with addiction, anyways, that just felt weird to say, her journey with addiction, but her struggle with addiction.
Now you sound like Chris Harrison on her journey this season.
Oh my god, stop. Do not equate me to that man. Part of the reason why she got sober the first time is because her mom and stepdad threatened to not let her see her younger sister, who's the one who's like, yeah, I've considered giving up on her. I think when it's your family, there comes a certain point where it's like you have to cut this person off because it's your family. And like, if you continue, it's hard to say, but like, if you continue to look at that person as your sibling and they're killing themselves slowly, like, you have to detach yourself at some point, because again, her family out of all people have probably done the most for her sobriety and tried to get her to be sober. But like her mom said, the only person who can really do it is Demi, and the only person who can choose sobriety is the person who has the problem. And so there comes a point where you do have to just distance yourself and give up on the person and detach yourself and dissociate yourself from your relationship with them for your own well-being. And it's really hard, and it goes back to that stigma of addiction and like the responsibility that falls on the family, the internalized like guilt that people feel. We don't talk enough about how to help people, like how to go about. There's no like playbook to go about this situation the right way when you have a family member. I just think it's really different for family. Obviously, her sister, probably out of everybody, wants her to be fine. It's just put yourself in that position if you're watching your sibling or your family member kill themselves slowly like that, and they have no intention of stopping. For your own well-being, like, you have to at some point draw the line. Like what you said, that her friends weren't being dishonest. I believe that too. I think, going back to what I said before about how there's a reason that she survived, you can just tell that she is a fighter. Like, it would be hard to give up on her because she seems, just even from like a very removed perspective, a very, very resilient person. Yeah. I also like how she said you really figure out who is there for you when the world falls out from under your feet. Because if that isn't the truest thing. Basically, I'll just say that I resonated with a lot of what she was saying.
I'm looking forward to the 4th episode, especially because I think they're going to be talking about her relationship, which I remember you could go back.
Foreshadowed.
I remember you could go back on our pod at some episode back when she announced her engagement, and we were like, "Yay, Demi! So happy for her." And then now it's like, yikes.
I felt like they were definitely teasing that for the next episode. I'm just watching this man across the lake set up his grill, and he is just vibing. He's ready for summer. It is straight up 40 degrees outside, max. It might be 35.
Yeah.
He's just out there flipping burgers.
I was gonna take my computer outside and on my like little concrete slab outside my door today and like answer emails from out there for a bit, and then I looked up the temperature and it was like 35 degrees, and I was like, the sun is lying to me because outside it looks very like 60. Yeah. But
it looks cold. Really nice out. Our patio furniture is arriving on Monday.
That's so exciting.
So when you guys are listening to this episode, the patio furniture should be here, and I'm fucking pumped.
If you are listening on Spotify, make sure that you follow us and download our episodes. And then if you are listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure that you also are downloading our episodes, you are subscribed, and you leave us a 5-star rating and review if you are so inclined. And then if you are watching on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell. Make sure you go back on our YouTube channel and watch Katie's birthday vlog video. Also follow us on TikTok at Popcorn Chats Pod for content over there. All of Katie and I's individual stuff is in the bios, but honestly, Katie and I are kind of boring on other social media platforms. So
that is very true.
Anyways, guys, catch you on the flip side.
See you next Monday, shawties.
Lilas.
Lilas.